Well, welcome to The Perspective. I'm Lorie Hartshorn. It's a privilege to be with you this week. I just love biographies. I could devour basically one a month, I think. I love stories. There's something about reading the stories of people's lives, and in many cases, those people have lived extraordinary lives. They're so inspiring. One of the lives that have always inspired me and been moved by is the life of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a pastor in Germany at the time of Hitler's regime, and he was part of an assassination plot to kill Hitler. This pacifist pastor becomes part of the assassination plan. I mean, get that. You're going to hear more of his story in just a minute, but there are many lessons from his life. And one of the books he wrote was Life Together, which has deeply impacted me as a follower of Jesus and a pastor of others. His life raises a question: how far would one go to stand up for what's right? This fantastic story has been made into a film. It's entitled Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin. And it's coming out on November 22nd. And I can tell you, you do not want to miss this, because today we're actually privileged to meet the film producers, Emmanuel and Camille Kampouris. Mr. Kampouris has had a successful business career as the retired chairman, chief executive officer, and president of American Standard Companies. And Camille also has had an illustrious career in the performing arts. You might know her, but she worked for 14 years as a lead Muppeteer with Jim Henson's Muppets on Sesame Street, one of our all-time favorites, right? And she performed for 10 seasons there. And one of her characters I'm familiar with is Meryl Sheep. Do you remember that one? I mean, she is the voice behind some amazing characters. Well, this Dynamo couple, they co-founded the Charis Journal. It's an online magazine to support and encourage help pastors in the public square issues. And in 2000, they founded Bible Mesh, an online theological training site. And they added now film producers to this most recent production, Bonhoeffer. Why don't you watch this?
We have devised a plot to assassinate the Führer.
My country was invaded from within.
And the people bowed in parade to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning, and the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words on the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, and whispered in the sun.
I'm ready to meet my destiny.
Of silence.
Well, welcome to The Perspective, Emmanuel and Camille. It's a delight to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, what a movie. I mean, we just got a taste of it right there in that trailer. But can you tell us a little about the inspiration behind the film? Like, what drew you to Dietrich Bonhoeffer's story?
Well, it's an interesting question because I knew nothing about Bonhoeffer until 2010, when I read Eric Metaxas's biography on Bonhoeffer. It was a really wonderful book, a wonderful read, easy read. Typically, biographies are difficult, but I managed to read through this one because it read like a novel. Anyhow, so that inspired us, and that was the inspiration for the movie. It was just like, and we said this has to be. We need to communicate this. We need the people to find out and learn about Bonhoeffer because he was such an important character.
Yes, and so many people don't, but you brought this movie to life. It took over a decade, I understand, to do that.
It was 12 years.
12 years.
To be exact.
Wow. What were some of the
And
challenges?
Actually, well, there were many challenges. We never set out to make a movie. We set out just to get a good script so that, anybody could go off and do a movie. We could give it to an agent or give it back to the author of the book, Eric Metaxas. Yeah, but it didn't work out that way because it took 7 years. So that was one of the first challenges. It took 7 years to get a script, and we went through 3 screenwriters, 2 script doctors, several consultants, 3 directors had input. and then 7 years later. So as the years went on, we knew that this was a calling from God going, So that was one big challenge. We had many.
Yeah.
We finally got a script in 2019. You can speak to that challenge.
Yeah, well, 2019, we had the script, and then we took, it took us about 2 years to complete it.
Well, yeah, but just before we started those 2 years, we had COVID.
Yeah, we started in 2020, and that sort of
Not shut us down.
shut us down because, we had to raise a lot of the funding, and then a lot of the investors took their money back because they said, well, you're not going to make a movie under these circumstances. Well, fortunately, we were able to recover from that. But
Amazing.
then we had to face the fact that the war in Ukraine, we were going to film in Czech Republic, and then the war in Ukraine broke out, and the Czech Republic would do all their incentives because they redirected the funding.
Yeah.
They redirected the funding for the war. So they say, anyhow,
They're film incentives.
let's film incentives, which is
Been a critical part of the
part of our budget. So
Yeah.
so that one, and so we had to scramble and find out another. Fortunately, we had a very good producer, executive producer rather, who helped us. He's famous, and he worked for us. He found out that we couldn't film it in Italy because there's no capacity at the time. We couldn't film it in France. Then he finally found a combo, filming it in Belgium and Ireland.
Right.
So we filmed it in 2 countries, if you will.
So how was the set design? Like, it was exceptional, I have to say. I would never have thought we're in Ireland, filming this. Like, how did you turn it into Belgium and New York and Germany, and you're filming in Ireland?
It was filmed entirely on location, which is rare today. We didn't use a set. So we would go to some place and do what's called, we would dress the set. So we had an amazing set designer, and he would turn a club into a 1930s, Harlem Renaissance club. Or we would take a house. The Bonhoeffer house is an actual house that we took the furniture out and remade it, reshaped it, and the look became well, at that time, we first meet Dietrich, and he's about 8, so it's about 1914. And, that's what a set designer does. So we tried to keep it all as authentic as possible.
Yes.
And
Well, you
so
really did. I thought I was in Germany the whole time I'm watching this. I'm like, it was so convincing. And I've been to Germany, so I really knew what I was looking for. But the cast, I have to say, I'm so struck by Dietrich's story, how young he was. I mean, at 39, he was hung because he was part of this assassination plan against Hitler. He was a young man. How did you find him? How did you find the cast? They were amazing.
Yes, you're good.
So we felt this actor, Dietrich, had to have gravitas, had to have youth, had to be able to play an older, 10 years older. He had to span quite a section of time. So he didn't want someone too old, too young. And so we looked in England. We thought classically trained, theatrical experience, that would be the way we go. We did not find anyone. And finally, our director, Todd Kormanicki, who's also the screenwriter, he called a friend of his in Germany and said, can you give us a list of maybe some German actors that could play Bonhoeffer? And she sent the list, and the list had one name in it, which was Jonas Dassler. And so but there were challenges at every step of the way. We called his agent, and his agent said he's not accepting scripts right now.
He's not reading.
Yeah, it's called not reading. And we were like, really? He was taking a break because he'd done so much, he was a bit burned out. And we just prayed, and we asked the agent to read the script, which of course, if the agent likes the script, you're kind of in the door, Okay. So she loved the script. And then one day, while his 2-week period when he wasn't reading, his grandmother passed away, which he was very close to her. And she knew she was going to pass away. And she had asked the family to sing a song at her funeral. So the family gets up, sings a song, and Jonas Dassler looks down, and it says, lyrics by Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Oh, my.
It's a famous song, actually, where he wrote the poem from prison, and years later, someone put it to music. And so he went home, needless to say, called his agent and said, I think I'm supposed to read this script. So,
amazing. Well, you know what? Obviously, this movie is a calling. on your life to endure all of this. And
Yeah.
God ordered it. We're going to come right back. We're going to take a quick break. And I want to hear from you about, just what this movie means to us today. Like, what is the message? So we'll be right back. Well, welcome back. This movie fascinates me, The Life of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And you made this film in 2022, yet it feels like a movie we need today more than ever. How so do you think this movie is actually speaking into our time?
Well, I think one of the messages is, especially for today, is that the church lacks courage. I mean, the church is very weak. I mean, they're happy that people go to church, but once Sunday is over, they go about their lives normally. I mean, the just lack of faith and courage is what's seen. Also, there's a lack of civility. There's coarseness in the culture. So this is the exact opposite of what Bonhoeffer was promoting.
Right. Is that an unleashing of evil globally that we've not seen? It certainly wasn't. Evil has always been around, but to see it so bold and so prominent everywhere. He famously said, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." And so I think our first call, we felt, as Emmanuel mentioned, is to call the church back to God, call them back to their first love, to an intensity. And that's really the story of Dietrich. He was, as in his own words, he was a theologian. When he went to Harlem, he saw real faith and he became a Christian. He saw people suffer and still be vibrant in their faith and their love for Jesus. Bonhoeffer always points you up. He always points you to the Lord.
Yeah.
And so that's a message we really need today in our churches and our communities. He said also that the church is only the church when it exists for others. And I think Christians have that responsibility of being light and bold in the community, bright light, And I think so. He's the same prophet he was back then. He's the same prophet for today.
Right. You know what? As I watched the film, I was struck by those quotes that you just mentioned, and I felt the stirring in my own heart to think, what would I do? What would I do in the midst of such evil? And you can see the passivity that the church was really playing the role in Germany and how it is definitely there here today. So thank you for this wake-up call. I really encourage people to see this because I do believe it's a wake-up call. How did this personally connect to you? I mean, obviously you wanted this story told. What personal connections or insights do you bring to the story of Dietrich Bonhoeffer?
I mean, personally, we were so grabbed with the same question. Would we do this if we were faced with this kind of environment? But as we worked on it for 12 years, we just grew deeper and deeper to a place of surrender before God. I would say, Ben, we were just growing dependency towards God. There's so many obstacles that you can't just move out unless there's divine intervention. It's not like, we need just more money, let's just raise it. So it was a real walk of faith to turn to live, by faith. And I think when you go deep like that, that's where courage is born. God said, I haven't given you a spirit of fear. But what has he given us? He's given us a spirit of power, of love, self-control. And those are all given by God. So that's where courage comes from, is that intimacy with
Yeah. Whereas another event, we were in Greece and we visited a monastery there, and we showed it. We showed a snippet of the movie, at least a little bit of the movie, to the abbot of that monastery. And he turns, after he looked at it, he turned around and says, "This is like a letter to the church."
From Revelation.
From Revelation. So it's another letter, modern letter to the church, which is interesting how he translated the whole movie as a letter to the modern day church.
To be neither hot nor, to be neither, not to be lukewarm, to be hot. Sure. God, go back to our first love.
I totally agree. The theme of courage throughout the whole movie. I love how you depicted his relationship with his parents. I mean, I have children in their 30s. And as I watched that movie, I'm like, this is a young man like my son.
Yes.
Right? And how
Yes.
would I have responded as a mom and his father to say, they really spoke courage into him, and they were willing to let their children, as hard as it was, take a stand. And do you think that that's what stirred me as I watched it? Is that the kind of, like, what do you want people to get out of this movie? Even as families and as parents and as we face trouble in our time, would that be one of the things, courage?
Courage.
Courage. Oh, definitely. And
Definitely courage.
got it.
And we coined a phrase in the movie which I promote, is Bonhoeffer brave.
We're starting a campaign online, Bonhoeffer Brave.
Bonhoeffer brave, because that's courage. I mean, he was a courageous young man, as you said, very young, but he had no fear because he trusted God and that God would lead him. So he was faithful to the task. I mean, he didn't flinch at all.
He was so surrendered to God. I mean, but it isn't.
And he influenced everybody else around him. I mean, not just.
We saw him in the beginning. He's not that way. He grows as the obstacles hit him, as he sees the growing apathy of the church, as he sees the atrocities being committed against the Jews. That's where you're not just born and then you're a Christian. Your family raises you a Christian. You have everything, all your ducks in a row. You have to walk this walk by faith every day with God. But to your point, no one has brought that up except you. His family they taught their children to never shirk responsibility, to speak when they had something to say, to always stand up for those who, are underprivileged, because it was a privileged song. And we wanted to show that family life and the tremendous cost that this family paid because of this horrible evil visited on that society. There were just millions of families like that all over Europe that paid a huge cost.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it, we believe that a lot of the cost was because the church didn't speak out, in many countries.
Yes, I can see that, and I can see the tension. I love how the character development happens in the movie, not just with Dietrich, but all of the family members. It makes him so real. And I love how we flash back. He's in prison, awaiting his trial or whatever's to come, and you go flashbacking through his life. And I personally connected with it on a lot of levels. I do feel like in our time and season, a call back to the church to rise up, courage to individuals and to families. Your final word to people to watch this movie, what would you say is, go out, see this movie, and what's your deepest hope for them as they watch?
Well, first go see it. Because if you want more films like this, you have to go to the box office. That's the only thing Hollywood looks at. Yeah. And this is a movie. You mentioned life together, and so community was big for Bonhoeffer. That's where we grow as Christians, in community. He believed that in community and time alone with God and time together with Christians. So we hope that, and that's actually another reason why I want you to go to the theater. You should see it in community, not alone on your iPad or your phone unless you have to. But yeah, I think we want to raise up men and women that have the faith of Bonhoeffer.
We just hope we inspire to raise as Camille says, men and women like Bonhoeffer, so they be inspired and go out and speak the truth and fight for what's correct.
And be all in.
And be all in.
Be all in. Be all in. That's it. That's it. Well, the question is, what would you do where if
Yeah.
you were to face the evil, and I think it's a question that we all need to even ask today. Thank you so much for creating the movie. Thank you so much for creating this resource that I do believe will waken up the church. And I encourage everyone watching, get out there and see this movie, and like take your small group, take your family, go to it as a family. You'll be so inspired. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. All right.
One in 5 Canadians struggle with a mental illness. Hi, my name is Alan Gallant, and I'm the Executive Director of Agora Network Ministries, a ministry that my wife and I founded based on my own crisis. Our ministry is to help anyone that's struggling with the mental health. We target the church and the believer in Jesus, and our aim is to help you move forward in your mental wellness.
You know, it's easy to feel alone and unloved in this life, isn't it? So I want to just take a few minutes to remind you how much God loves you. There's a story that goes like this. There was a massive forest fire, and firefighters were walking through the debris and the smoke and checking on hot spots. And while walking, one of them saw a large black lump. And as he came closer, he discovered it was a large bird. And his first thought was, why didn't the bird just fly away? It could have escaped all this fire. And then as he kicked at the bird's carcass, a flurry of activity erupted, and 4 little birds came out from under the bird carcass, and they're flailing in the dust and the ash, and then they run down the hillside. Well, the mother had sacrificed herself to protect her little ones by covering them with her own body and wings, taking on the raging flames on herself. She could have escaped. She could have simply flown away, but she laid down her life to protect the one she loved. You know, this story reminds me of a verse in Matthew 23:27. It says, "O Jerusalem, how often I have longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing." You know, in this verse, we see God's willingness to protect us and save our lives because of his love for us. But the shocking truth is that many are unwilling to go to him for shelter and safety. See, God wants you to know that he loves you. He loves you so much that he laid down his life for you so that you could escape death in the fire. This is the gospel. Jesus himself said, there is no greater love than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends. He didn't just say those words, he actually lived them. He gave his life as the ultimate act of love. 1 John 3:16 says it this way, this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. So the question is, will you receive the love of God as demonstrated through what Jesus did for you? He laid down his life for you. He took the fire of sin and death upon himself so that you and I could have life. There's no greater act of love than this. No matter what you face, his love is available to you, not just once, but every day of your life as you draw close to him. So if you feel unloved or overlooked, maybe loneliness is overwhelming you in this season, may this remind you today that Jesus loves you. He really does. He gave up his very life for you. He sees you right where you are. He knows what's happening in your life. He knows the situations around you, and his arms are open to you. You know, this is an invitation to be like those baby chicks. When the storm is raging all around you, when you're feeling, lonely, maybe lost and unloved, simply run. Run to the shelter of God's arms. He'll not only protect you, but he's going to carry you through the storm. So will you run to him today? All you have to do is believe that he died for you. He gave up his life so that you could have life. Say thank you and receive his gift of love today. And you know what? You won't face another day feeling unloved or alone, because that's how much God really loves you.
Hi there. My name's Ryan, and I played a little bit in the NHL. I played a lot on teams, almost 60 years on teams. A guy by the name of Jim Wilder enlightened me recently. He said there's 3 types of players on your team. Every team, church team, business team, every team. Number 1, you got possums. And when things don't go well, possums play dead. Number 2, you have predators. Predators go after the possums. They're looking for the edge. Number 3 is you have protectors. And every team that I can look back on, if we had more protectors than we had predators, that was a different team. Here's my point. Jesus is the good shepherd. He's the ultimate protector. Are we growing towards being a protector? Are we growing towards being a predator? Or are we still a possum?
Well, I hope today has inspired you like it's inspired me. I mean, I've already seen the movie Bonhoeffer, so I cannot emphasize this enough. Go and see it. There's a movement in our world, even back to anti-Semitism now. I mean, we see things erupting across North America and university campuses, and we need to be reminded of history. I believe this film is really for our time. It's a reminder to learn the lessons that have already occurred in history, that we do not want to go back there again. But we know that the enemy is still at work, just like in the time of Bonhoeffer. And we need to have courage to be able to stand up like he did. He was a young man. And yet, even today, we're blessed by much of his teaching and the things that he wrote. So, whether you are familiar with Dietrich Bonhoeffer yet, please go see the film. I know it will encourage you. And we want to continue to encourage you. We want to actually be there for you. And our prayer line is open 24 hours, 7 days a week. Call 1-855 910 6297. Someone is available to pray for you right now. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or alone, please call us. Go to theperspective.tv to get our monthly devotional. It's really inspiring. There's daily readings. You'll really enjoy the journey of this resource. And we don't want you to do it alone. So contact us at theperspective.tv. Remember that we're there to pray with you, to resource you, to encourage you. And if you enjoyed this show, well, share it with others. Go on our YouTube channel, subscribe there so that we can get to know you better. And I just hope today really encouraged you. Have courage, have faith. God's got this, and he loves you so much. Thanks for watching.